Hi there. Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you're just stepping into the world of public relations, you've probably already figured out that crafting the perfect pitch is kind of both an art and a science. Today, we're diving into a concept that is absolutely essential if you want to level up your pitching strategy and, actually get noticed by the media. We're talking about aligning your PR campaigns with search intent.
Have you ever poured your heart into what feels like a truly brilliant pitch? Maybe it's a shiny new company announcement or a massive internal milestone, only to hit send and get literally zero coverage? Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. But here's a little secret. Your ideas might not be weak at all. You might just be missing what we call the search layer. Basically, your campaign might be totally ignoring what real people are actually out there searching for at this very moment.
So, how do we actually fix this? Well, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to quickly cover the overlooked PR layer, break down what search intent actually is and why it matters, look at the natural overlap between PR and search, walk through 5 specific steps to get you aligned, and finally, talk about building stronger campaigns overall. All right, let's jump right into the first part, the overlooked PR layer. This is a super common trap for beginners. Think about traditional PR for a second. Campaigns are so often built in complete isolation, right? They focus entirely on what the brand wants to shout to the world. Company announcements, product launches, rigid brand messaging. It's essentially a one-way street. But modern, successful PR, it doesn't just broadcast, it connects. Search-aligned PR taps into trending topics, issues people are already debating, and emerging questions. Because look, if you launch a feature without stopping to see if anyone is actively searching for a solution to that specific problem, your story is probably going to fall flat. Okay, moving on to part 2. What exactly is search intent anyway? Simply put, search intent is the real underlying reason someone types a phrase into Google. It reflects what they actually want to know, not just the random keywords they mashed into the keyboard. Honestly, I want you to think of search intent as a reflection of genuine human curiosity rather than some scary, highly technical SEO metric. It is literally just the why behind the search. We can actually break this curiosity down into 4 main buckets. First, we've got informational intent, where someone just wants to learn, like typing, "What is remote work policy?" Then, commercial intent, where they're actively comparing options, like best remote work tools. Next is transactional, meaning they're ready to buy or take action right now. And finally, navigational, when they're hunting for a specific brand. As a beginner in PR, wrapping your head around this is a total game changer. Think about it. If your client sells remote work software, pitching a basic "What is remote work" article to a journalist when the audience is clearly in a commercial buy-in mindset, well, that's like trying to sell a paper map to someone who already owns a GPS. Different questions just need completely different PR angles. Which brings us to part 3. Why does this actually matter so much? Here's the thing. As PR pros, we are obsessed with getting coverage from journalists. But who are those journalists writing for? They write for audiences. And what audiences care about is heavily reflected in their search behavior. Fun fact for you, the average journalist gets pitched over 100 times a single day. No way they can read all those. If you want to stand out in that overflowing inbox, Relevance is your absolute best friend. Now, a journalist might not use the phrase search intent in their daily meetings, but they are heavily influenced by emerging public questions. If a topic is trending in search, it screams demand and relevance. Journalists want to write about that. So campaigns that ignore search are just leaving massive visibility on the table. Let's look at part 4, the natural overlap between PR and search. It's a real feedback loop. PR and search exist in this continuous, symbiotic loop. They feed off each other. When a great story hits the media, it instantly becomes searchable content. And on the flip side, when a topic gets heavily searched by the public, you better believe it becomes a media story pretty quickly. You really can't have one without the other today. PR shapes how ideas are distributed, and search proves that people actually care about those ideas. Let's see how this loop plays out in real life. Step 1. Let's say a phrase like AI regulation in business starts trending on Google. Because of that sudden spike in demand, Step 2 kicks in. Journalists scramble to write articles covering AI regulation. And here is where you swoop in for Step 3. You time your pitch perfectly, offering expert commentary from your client on, you guessed it, AI regulation. You are stepping right into an existing current of interest, instead of exhausting yourself trying to swim upstream.
All right, so we know the why. Let's get into the how with Section 5. This is your actionable 5-step playbook for alignment.
Here's the rundown. We're going to start with audience questions, map our stories to those search themes, align our pitches with journalist patterns, build on recurring intent, and then finally, turn that raw intent into actual media angles. Let's break these down. Starting with steps 1 and 2. The absolute strongest PR campaigns out there flip the script entirely. Instead of sitting in a room asking, okay, what do we want to announce? You have to ask, what are people trying to understand right now? Focus on the problem your client's tool solves and pay attention to the exact language people use to search for it. For example, if you represent a cybersecurity firm, you wouldn't just blast out a pitch saying, new firewall software released. Nobody cares. Instead, you'd notice a huge spike in searches for data breaches in small businesses, and you'd build a PR story offering expert insights on how to prevent them. See the difference? You're actually answering their question.
Now for step 3, aligning with journalist interest patterns. The rule of thumb here is simple. If something is widely searched, it is widely discussed in newsrooms. If there's a sudden surge in people Googling remote work productivity, journalists are going to be out there actively hunting for expert commentary on workplace trends. When your pitch aligns with those specific search patterns, it feels completely natural and incredibly timely to the journalist. You're basically handing them the missing piece of their puzzle.
Wrapping up with steps 4 and 5. This is about building a strategy that actually lasts. You want to target long-term recurring search categories, stuff like productivity, money management, or health trends. These topics don't just vanish after a 24-hour news cycle. Then, step 5 is interpreting that raw search data into a compelling narrative. So if the raw search trend is why are startup layoffs increasing, you don't just put that in the subject line of an email. You craft a PR angle around it, offering expert commentary on hiring cycles and broader economic pressures. You have to translate the raw data into a real story.
Finally, let's bring it all home with Section 6, building stronger PR campaigns and looking at the long-term impact.
When you start aligning your PR with search intent, it completely stops being this frustrating game of random outreach, just hoping something sticks. Instead, you're systematically matching audience demand. You're actively making journalists' jobs easier by supporting their research. And honestly, most importantly, a well-aligned campaign massively increases your long-term discoverability. It drives traffic and builds brand authority for months or even years after the article goes live, because your story is permanently tied to what people are consistently looking for.
I absolutely love this quote from our source material because it just hits the nail on the head. Search intent acts as a bridge between audience curiosity and media relevance. Seriously, without that bridge, even the most beautifully written pitch is going to feel disconnected from the wider conversation. But once you build that bridge, you stop being an annoyance in an inbox and start being an invaluable resource. So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge for your very next campaign. I want you to look at the announcement or story you're working on today, map out the true intent behind it, and ask yourself, how will you align this pitch with what your audience is already out there searching for? Good luck!